Well, good morning, everyone, at least here on the European side of things. Round 2 of the Pro Mazda Championship will be with you in just a couple of moments from Phillip Island, so don't go away for it. It's the start of a huge amount of racing here on Race Spot TV and iRacing Live for this Saturday. See you guys in a bit.
Team racing allows multiple iRacing members to team up and race together, just like in real-world endurance series. Teammates can share driving duties, spot for one another, or be a crew chief. Team racing is free, both to join a team and to create one. Each teammate races on his or her own computer from wherever they want to. Your teammates can be anywhere in the world, and changing drivers mid-race is as easy as a click of a button. iRacing features team endurance events ranging from just a couple of hours to 24 hours in length. So, if you fancy taking part in an iRacing endurance race in the future, you can learn more about team racing on the teams page on the member website.
Hello and welcome back to round number 2 of the Pro Mazda Championship here at Phillip Island, and qualifying is well underway. Times have already been posted up on the timing board. I am Connery Maddock, and joining me in the box today will be Gary Weaver. Now, Gary, I absolutely love this racetrack. It is basically a driver's racetrack with how the track just flows up and down these elevation changes. And it can result in some very, very interesting racing too, especially the heavy braking zone coming down into turn number 10.
It's going to be something to watch out for, most definitely, especially with the, if there is even any. There could be some slipstream, maybe not. That's something we'll have to find out. I'm honestly not sure, but like you mentioned, that heavy braking zone, that's definitely going to be probably a place for passing. That's something we're going to have to find out if anyone will utilize that heavy braking zone to find that optimal passing point as quick as possible.
Yep, and it's just one of the places where you can get past as well. Turn number 4, there's also a big opportunity for drivers to get themselves past another. As things stand in qualifying right now, it is still Daniel Fletcher, who actually goes himself for a spin on the live pictures, is currently only less than a tenth of a second ahead of Thomas Jordan for pole position. But the thing is, both drivers have run out of laps here to get themselves any sort of improvement. People, in terms of people who haven't set any lap times, Cedric Krolczyk, there's Scott Lanrock and Alessandro Maresta as well. Those are the drivers that have yet to set a lap time. Krolczyk is on an out lap right now. He'll come across the line to start his flying lap. And why not? Let's just take a little bit of an on board with him as he goes on for his qualifying lap. Crosses the line there, so this is where the timer does start. And now down in towards turn number 1, this long sweeping right-hander. Fantastic in downforce oriented cars like this Pro Mazda. In towards turn number 2, just gradually slow the car down, make sure you get that later apex to try and get the run off the corner. And now it's the run all the way down towards turn number 3, and then you've got the first heavy braking zone of the lap, Gary. It's on the corner.
He's going to be making his way down hard on the brakes. He's going to be heading towards that right, gets onto the rumble strip ever so slightly with those tires. He's going to use that runoff to a massive amount through pretty much what looks like just to be a small of a hairpin. He goes wide a bit. Yep, he's going to retire.
We won't see the full lap there from Krolczyk, but there are still drivers on laps here. You've got Alessandro Maresta, you've got Scott Lanrock as well, and Alessandro Maresta, he's actually heading up towards, well, just past the point that Krolczyk had aborted the lap. So up towards Lukey Heights now, this long left-hander up the hill, and you start to go down the hill with the elevation change in onto the brakes, or downhill braking zone for turn number 10. That could be a very, very interesting one, especially especially on the first lap of this event, as drivers get a little bit greedy. Now into the final couple of corners, now past pit exit into the final corner, and it's important to get a very good run out of here because it could set you up for a pass coming down across the start-finish line, and it's a late start-finish line here as well. It's right under the entry right there, and Maresta, he gets himself a 125 flat. That gets him P at number 8. Langrock gets him across the line as well. Scott Langrock gets himself third on the grid, so second row for him. And I don't think anyone else here in this entire field is on a lap, so this is your qualifying grid.
Yep, 16 drivers make up your field tonight. Well, today, I should say. Full field of 16 drivers. It'll be interesting to see how everyone takes this first lap.
It will be, as Daniel Fletcher will take pole position by less than a tenth of a second to Thomas Jordan, who also joins him on the front row. Scott Langrock, a very late lap here there, gets him into P number 3 on the grid. And then you've got Martin Arnoldus joining him on that second row. Third row consists of Martin Granberg and Jean-Michel Noyon, P number 6 here, and Ishmael Hernandez, P number 7. Henry Robert gets himself in towards P number 8. Alessandro Maresta, Wayne Funston will round out your top 10 in qualifying. And then you've got the likes of Joseph Newman, Nicolas Landro, Christian Cabancha, Anne Medina, Gabriel Martin Alvaro, and Cedric Krolzik, the only driver to not set a lap time there. So that is what your grid looks like for this second round of the Pro Mazda series here at Phillip Island. As the drivers right now, Gary, they're taking themselves to the grid.
Right now, this is when the adrenaline starts to pump just a little bit more than it does in qualifying. This is when it all comes down. Of course, the one thing that you definitely have to keep in mind is to not jump that main start, because, well, if you do that, in that case, you can pretty much call your original position that you expected to be in. Well, that's not going to happen because you'd have to serve that penalty.
Yeah, you will have to, as well, we've got maximum about a minute until we get this race started, and that's a very good point about the jump starts as well, because I remember a Monday Night Skippies race here at a couple of the drivers at the back of the field, should say, did get themselves black flag for jumping the start. I don't think it's something with the track here. Maybe it's just a little bit of a fluke that sometimes happens here, but as the drivers start to get themselves to the grid, the imposter commentating here, Mr. Sadler, is myself, Connery Maddock, and Gary Weaver will be taking you through the action there as the drivers. We're still waiting only for one more, and that is the driver number 14 of Alessandro Maresta, who will just be taking a little bit of his time here, keeping the drivers waiting to get this event started. 18-lap event, no scheduled pit stops, as Maresta, he does get himself finally on towards the grid. So we are very, very close to getting this race started. The engine notes will rise, green flag will fly, green lights will show. Terrible start for your pole position. A fantastic start for P number 3, though. Scott Langrock will get P number 2 heading down in towards turn number 1, will challenge for the race lead as well, around the outside, the long way around. He'll have to go, at least initially, to try and get by Daniel Fletcher. If he can hang it there, he has the inside now for turn number 2. But the thing is, such momentum for Fletcher on that outside line, a little bit squirrely off the corner, will secure P number 1 on this first lap. As there's a car off behind that, Ishmael Hernandez, that goes for a trip through the gravel, will rejoin the track safely, as there's multiple instances of 2 wide, especially for what's going to be P number 9 as Maresta and Nicholas Landau there as they head down in towards Honda for the first time. There's a car that's very slow ahead, incident ahead. That is an absolutely huge one at the bottom half of your field. Martin Arnoldus spinning in front of everyone there, and that's everyone collected in the bottom half.
My goodness, well, like you mentioned, that was pretty much the entire back half of the field. Number 3 of Arnoldus just came down when that 4 of Granberg was there. Just an unfortunate slight miscommunication there, and, well, unfortunately that just costed pretty much half of these drivers their race.
Yeah, that is absolutely huge, as we'll see replays of that incident. And when you look at Arnoldus, I think he was just a little bit of contact with Martin Grandwig on the inside of Honda corner. A little bit of a tag, tried to get the car back under control, but the thing is the drivers behind were too close to be able to slam on the anchors to try and avoid that one. And just one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. That is what caused the carnage down at Honda corner. But returning to at least the live victors right now, we still got a group of cars at the front here. There's a group of 4 cars. Daniel Fletcher still leading, Scott Langrock, then Thomas Jordan, then Martin Grandberg in this top group right now. Then you have Wayne Funston down into P number 5. You got Maresta P number 6, and then you've got quite a gap before you see another couple of drivers. Then Anne Medema and Henry Roberts and Jean-Michel Noyon will take things down to P number 9. Joseph Newman rounds out P number 10. So that was an absolutely frantic start here, and it might continue here with Thomas Jordan trying to go for P number 2 on the S's coming up towards Lukey Heights, but there was no space for him to be able to make any sort of move there. But now coming up towards number 10, Scott Langrock is so squirrely coming over the top of the elevation change. Will manage to get himself slowed down for the turn number 10, slow turn number 10 though. But it was just an absolutely crazy start, Gary. But the thing is, it took so many casualties.
Yeah, it took about 6 cars out pretty much is what I'm seeing right now. So we only have 10 running. Joseph Newman, like you mentioned, this is that last one that is pretty much running out what's left of your actual field right now, unless somebody can salvage it. But we have a move for second. Thomas Jordan trying to look onto the driver's right side. Almost a little bit of contact on Scott Langrock, as he's going to be, looks like he's just going to surrender that second place position. A little bit sideways was Jordan, but he does manage to save it and keep it forward as they head down to the next corners.
Yeah, and these guys fighting is just kind of allowing Daniel Fletcher to get away as he'll go for the move yet again. Scott Langrock now around the outside, coming down towards Honda. Does he get the car slowed down? He does get the car slowed down relatively well. And now this has just brought Martin Granberg back into things here as they all take a wide line coming up towards Siberia, turn number 6. And now they'll just follow each other up the hill now, coming through the S's section. And not really close enough for any driver to be able to make a move, perhaps coming down in towards turn number 10. But let's see if Langrock gets Lukey Heights right this time. He does. Much tighter line this time coming through there. And he will get turn 10 slowed down for relatively okay. But Jordan is so quick through that section. He's got himself back onto the back of your driver feed number 2 now. And now this is where the slipstream will come into effect. Coming out of the final turn, you can see Thomas Jordan has just tucked himself inside it. Will actually just draw himself right up to the back of that rear wing. Will go for the move down the inside initially for turn number 1. Down onto the brakes slightly in these cars. Just a little bit up, maybe just even a little bit of a lift coming down into there. Not really having to slow down all that much. But Langrock will hold on for P number 2 for now. And that is just the state of things right now. It's just Jordan can't get himself past. He can bring himself alongside, he just can't complete any move.
Or maybe he doesn't want to risk it right now, as it's only lap 4 of 18, working lap 4, 3 completed right now. Grenberg has yet to make any kind of a move. He's probably also just laying back again. It is, in a way, still early on in this run right now. But like you mentioned just a couple laps ago, this, well, if you will, battle, which is still kind of taking place, it has yet to form once again, but just allowed Fletcher to make a little bit of a distance. But right here you have your top 3 pretty much equal distance, and then Granberg is just a little farther ways back, as again they're going to head into this right-hander, pretty much essentially a wider version of a hairpin, it actually looks like. So that slipstream could come into effect once again. Maybe Jordan can either complete the pass if he probably wanted to, if he wants to I should say, but I'm going to find out. Maybe he's just experimenting to see what could work later on in the run.
Yeah, exactly. Since the start finish line is so far down the pit straight, then it usually is for at least FIA Grade 1 circuits, then there is a chance to get this thing sort of passed out of the final turn on the final lap. So maybe that's what Thomas Jordan is just kind of playing with right now. But Scott Langrach actually did set the fastest lap of the event that last time by. So that is the reply from Scott Langrach due to the pressure from behind. Of course, he does have the little bit of tail end of the draft now from your race leader. He has drawn himself back up that close. It's around about 0.6 of a second, the gap between them. That has definitely closed up in the first sector, though. Scott Langrach now just he's not really all that concerned about the driver from behind now. He's got his eyes set on that race lead.
Yeah, well, but how much faster that lead lap, that fast lap was? Well, it's 0.3 faster than Daniel Fletcher last time around, and 0.2 faster than Thomas Jordan, who's just sitting right behind him in third. And then we have the number 4 of Granberg, who's again just sitting there, just laying out. I believe he's actually probably just lost a bit of the slipstream. Maybe he's just again still laying back, just letting these drivers fight it out, and hopefully he could. For himself, he's going to strike later on in this run. This time around, as they're going to come out of the final corner, coming across the start-finish line, we're going to see what's the fastest lap this time around as they cross the start-finish line right here. That time around, it was Thomas Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan just marginally faster than Langrach, but the thing is, Daniel Fletcher right at the front of the field, not having any draft to work with. He was actually almost 2/10 of a second slower than the rest of the drivers in this group. So that is what he has to be dealing with right now. He has to manage this pack from the front and not have any draft to help him for any drivers ahead of him. But the thing is, here comes Scott Langrach, has to run down towards Honda. The door is left open there for Daniel Fletcher, but instead just decides to take the late apex instead. Langrach could have been very, very aggressive there, but decided to just go a little bit more passive in that sort of situation. It's still early on in this event, only 6 laps done of 18, so maybe it's not worth going for those risky dives down the inside, at least at this stage. That's more of a final couple of laps thing. But towards Lucky Heights now, Thomas Jordan, he's, as I said before, he's so quick through this section. That is just completely evident with the way he drags himself right up to the back of Scott Langrach. But the thing is, elsewhere in the lap, that car doesn't seem to be performing as well.
Yeah, hopefully he can adjust his speed or his braking and steering and try to find just a slightly alternate line. But right now he doesn't need one. He's already in the slipstream, and Langrach is going to make a move to the... No, he's going to lay off, almost makes contact on the straightaway there, coming to the start-finish line. That would have been a little bit close, as Larnach actually moved out of the way as well, just a little bit, about half a car length, half a car width, I should say, on the front straightaways when he moved to the right side, maybe trying to break that draft a little bit. He gets loose, hanging into the first corner. He keeps it straight and forward as if that never really happened. He got a little bit of the gravel as well, maybe a little bit too early on in that throttle.
Yeah, and Granberg is still in this one. He's just been watching and stalking and just sensing where his opportunities will start to appear. So there's still a 4-car pack for P number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Looking elsewhere in the field, though, there is still battle going on for P number 5. That's Alessandro Maresta versus Wayne Funston, the 14 and the 11 drivers, very, very close together. And then even further down, you have the likes of Joseph Newman and Henry Robert that are battling for position 8, 9, and 10. And in fact, Joseph Newman has got himself passed on that last lap, and I expect him to pull away with the lap time difference of 125.8 versus a 127.1. Well, if that trend continues, Joseph Neal will be off and away, at least in terms of Henry Roberts' perspective. So those are the battles inside of the top 10, and pretty much everyone else outside of the top 10 has retired from this event. You've got Marcel Milders, Ishmael Hernandez, Nicolas Landau, Christian Cabancha, and Cedric Krolzik are the drivers that have retired. As we'll have a look for P number 5. Here we go, side by side down in towards turn number 1. Maresta having to defend the inside line here. If he's successful, then he can take the optimal line coming through turn number 2. Wayne Funston, he's still there looking for the inside line. But the thing is, Maresta's going to push a little bit wide in the middle of the corner here. He decides to take turn number 2 as more of a double apex than a single apex. You can do that and not lose too much time. But Funston still going to be very, very aggressive here, coming down in towards Honda around the outside. It has to be a set now for Wayne Funston. Can he get the undercut? Can he get the cut back? Nope. And Maresta runs that defensive line very, very admirably there.
Amazing action going on, even if it isn't in the essentially the top 4 for the lead pack. These drivers are still acting like it's, they're not really acting like anything, but they are trying the best that they can to get whatever position they can, despite their limitations of the slipstream. For example, we have 15 of Henry Robert. He has a little bit of rear spoiler damage, but he is still managing to at least stay with Joseph Newman just enough to not really lose that slipstream. But Joseph Newman has pulled away just a little bit compared to that last lap as the lead cars come out of the final turn, turn 12. Still no change of your top 4 as of yet.
Yep, it is still Fletcher, Langrach, Jordan, Granberg is the order of that front pack. And Granberg is risking dropping off the back of this draft train right now. So I think Granberg can only hold himself in his front pack if these 3 drivers at the front are fighting. But the thing is, if they're running single file, just running laps, then he just drops off the back. Is actually Newman, the number 16 driver. He's brought the car down on towards the lane. He is not going to finish. And I think this was an incident coming down in towards turn number 10. Gets on the brakes just fine, but oh, he just clips too much of the curb and he sent it to the tire barriers on the inside.
Yeah, it's just essentially, like you mentioned, just over braking or couldn't find the right line, couldn't find the grip. Looking back on it right now, brakes, turns into the corner, just a little too much, gets that curbing, both wheels on both sides. That's something that's definitely going to be upsetting the car, but unfortunately Newman is now out of this race, but hopefully he will be able to rebound next week.
Yeah, hopefully you will be able to, as pretty much everyone now outside your top 10 is a retiree from this race. So we've got quite a disappointing rate of attrition, but we still have a lot of racing to do here for the next 9 laps of this event. Jordan's still very close, coming down in towards turn number 1 to get himself P number 2, but he just can't, right now, he can't bring himself alongside, let alone pass, so that is a difference to earlier. Granberg actually did set the fastest lap of anyone of the entire event that last time, a 124 flat, so maybe he is still slightly in the slipstream here to be able to run those fast laps as Jordan in towards Honda. Oh, the race leader's just gone wide there. That was an opportunity that Langrach could have capitalized on, but he was just a little bit too far back to be able to do anything. Into Siberia now for all 4 of these drivers in your lead pack. And I think this is just going to stay the same here all the way till the end, unless we see some sort of incident, Garrett.
Or unless we see some sort of a pass, right? The correct moment for whoever decides to make that pass. We saw Jordan get alongside Langrach entering turn number 1, or at least there's a few opening corners, but he couldn't bring himself, he couldn't get the car to keep its momentum and stick with Langrach through pretty much the entire corner or get by him. So he's got the slipstream down, as looks like Fletcher's going to get a piece of the infield there, but Jordan's got it. He's got the momentum, he's got the slipstream at the right moment, but right now it's going to be Langrach to the driver's right side for the lead, heading into the first corner.
Yeah, side by side for the race lead. And does Langrach get himself past here? No, he doesn't get himself clear. He finally gets himself clear. And actually, that car is so twitchy. Out onto the grass, out onto the gravel. And Langrach is going to drop many positions here. At least he's going to drop off the front of this pack. He currently runs P number 4, so it's lucky for him that he had that buffer between the front pack and the rest of the field. But he did get that pass complete. It was done. But the thing is, he was in the middle of the corner. Car started to get twitchy coming through the middle of the corner, and he had to track out. There's no choice about it. He had to take it into the grass and into the gravel. And now he is many seconds indeed off your front pack.
Just essentially probably got on the throttle just a little bit too soon, or it could have been the way he was entering the corner. That line, the momentum was just too much for his car, and it loosened him up, and well, now he sits 4th, but on the bright side for him, it's 4th, and he didn't lose too many positions, only about 2 positions overall, but in terms of time, the timing is scoring for time, it is a massive distance, almost 5 seconds off of your race leader.
Yeah, it is absolutely huge. I'm looking at that right now. Yeah, 4.9 seconds back to your race leader. So that is the kind of margin that Langrach has to make up. But the thing is, he's running in clear air now, so he hasn't got he doesn't going to be concerned about other drivers trying to race around him. He can race his own laps now, but the thing is, he won't have any help in the draft. So now it is a 3-horse race at the front of your field. Thomas Jordan looking strong as ever, and this is the part of the circuit where he's actually not this part, that's a little later on, but the thing is, here comes Thomas Jordan potentially inside as Honda corner. No, that's not going to happen. Daniel Fletcher still, he's not looked entirely secure at the front of this field, Gary. He's just made a couple of mistakes here and there, maybe some slight missed apexes here and there that has just brought the drivers behind back in.
Yeah, those small mistakes could have been so much as just barely clipping the infield grass as he did just a couple laps ago. That time that was Thomas Jordan, it seemed. So as little as it seems, that could cost you maybe so much in so little time. But with the slipstream, it's going to act like it's pretty much nothing. So those mistakes, basically so much as a small exit, I could cancel out if you do have a slipstream. But right now, Daniel Fletcher's got a great run coming out of the corner right now, but again, it's just that slipstream that's going to work to his disadvantage right now.
Yeah, Australian, or at least Australian, New Zealand P1, P2 at the moment, and Martin Granberg hails from somewhere in Scandinavia, so that is your top 3 finishing positions for the moment in time. The top 3 podium positions is through the rest of the field. Here comes a pass here for P number 6. Anna Medema getting past Maresta there, coming down in towards turn number 1. Has to do it the long way around, and Medema will get himself by. He's actually cut back move there for Maresta, aggressive down towards the inside of turn number 2, but he's not going to be successful. Maresta, he could have just made that work, but the thing is, Medema, that is, he managed to keep himself behind, managed to run those optimal lines through the corner, but it was a good attempt from Maresta.
Yeah, that crossover was an amazing attempt, as Thomas Jordan has actually went off the track, entering the Honda corner. Yeah, he just, oh my goodness, he tried to turn in and then got a little bit too loose, and then just unfortunately had to get off the track, and it was, oh my goodness, it was really unfortunate. We can get a replay of that, as that battle for 6th is still blooming, if you will, but right now it's just time for Granberg to see if he can catch Daniel Fletcher as well. Right now it's 2 drivers out just because of small mistakes like that.
Yeah, and they have been small mistakes, so that but the thing is, small mistakes can have big effects. That means that Thomas Jordan now 3.6 seconds behind your race leader. So both Thomas Jordan and Scott Lagerach running into self-caused issues, shall we say. And Martin Granberg now the only one right now that could potentially challenge for the race leaders. Looking back to P number 6, in fact, there's Maresta. He got himself back past Andy Medema coming around the outside at turn number 1. So he did exactly what Medema did to him on the lap previous. A little bit of revenge there.
Yeah, a little bit of anything you can do, I can do better. Well, that definitely worked out amazing, as Medema unfortunately couldn't really get a crossover like Maresta did in that little exchange that they had 1 lap prior. That would have been even more interesting to see that happen, as they had now coming in through and out of Honda corner through the, well, not exactly the S. It's still going to take a while for me to get used to this, but we are closing in on the closing laps, and it's still time for Granberg to see if he has anything for Daniel Fletcher, and for Medema to see if they have anything for Maresta.
Yeah, these are the main battles that you're looking at right now. Daniel Fletcher, Martin Granberg for P number 1. You've got Maresta versus Medema for P number 6 right now. So those are the 2 battling pairs that we have to be looking at before the end of this race. 4 laps to go right now. Daniel Fletcher still has a relatively comfortable gap over Martin Granberg, though 0.8 of a second, or just slightly over for him to be happy about. But the thing is, Granberg did catch about 0.2 of a second that last time by with the help of the draft, so he is still in this with 3.5 laps to go, so don't count him out just yet. But Maresta and Medema, they've already exchanged positions on 2 occasions right now. Let's see if they can do it on another occasion, as both drivers not entirely secure on the brakes coming down in towards turn number 2. But the thing is, Maresta getting a very good exit, manages to stretch that gap out a little bit. So Now this is the calm before the storm, I feel, Gary. And these drivers just setting themselves down a little bit for that big finale.
Yeah, this is where you just have to calm yourself down and remind yourself to not do anything that you wouldn't normally do for pretty much any position. As much as you want that position, you have to remind yourself to run your line as best as possible and take anything as best as an advantage as you can. For example, a slipstream, as Granberg has definitely used that 1 lap prior, 2 times faster, like you mentioned, just for the last time around. This time around, that's going to be 1/10 faster, as Daniel Fletcher has a 124.3, 124.2 for Granberg. However, he's slowly closing that gap. 0.7 last time around, now it's 0.6.
Oh, and Daniel Fletcher's in trouble. They're coming through turn number 2, side by side for the race lead now on lap number 16 of 18. Granberg now to the pointy end of the field. He leads this race after a major mistake for Daniel Fletcher. But the thing is, this isn't over. Coming down in towards Honda corner now onto the brakes. Fletcher just has to stay behind. And oh no, those little mistakes have piled up now for Fletcher. It's now racing from behind.
It was just that line that he took entering into the corner. It looked a little bit wide on his car. The car didn't like that. It got a little bit loose. He did manage to save it, however, but unfortunately for him, he is back in second place right now. It's about for sixth is starting to make its way known as, oh my goodness, looking to the driver's right side was Maresta. Couldn't find that opening there. Had the opening, didn't really have the momentum to get the car into that right now. So, oh no, Daniel Fletcher just went off the track. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that has just spoiled what was an amazing battle for P1. Let's see what happened. I think it was down towards turn number 10. In fact, it was down towards turn number 10. Yeah, it's a downhill braking zone there. The track does drop away from the car. The car does feel a little bit light as you go over that crest, and I think that's exactly what happened there. He just got into the brakes. Car felt very light. You just see it track towards the left just a little bit before he managed to get himself on the curb and onto the grass. And now, looking at the gaps, I think Granberg is very secure, at least for P1. What have you spotted?
There was a little bit of contact coming out of that final corner with the battle for 6th. The Maresta got on the back bumper of Medema and almost completely put Medema into the wall, and Maresta had to back off to avoid anything else happening. Well, now that gap has pretty much widened itself by a substantial amount right now.
Yeah, it has. So the closest battle out there on circuit now will be between, for P3, Scott Langworth versus Daniel Fletcher. And now can Fletcher get himself back into some sort of rhythm after those mistakes that have piled up, and get himself right back up to the back of Scott Langworth. These two drivers were battling earlier on, at least for the race lead, but now it's only for the final step on the podium. Thomas Jordan could be brought back into this as well. So that is what they were going to be looking at. But the thing is, here comes Granberg out of the final corner. White flag for him this time by only one more lap, and he'll be the race winner here. He's got a comfortable gap over Thomas Jordan. It's about 2 seconds right now, so the gap has come down 0.6 of a second on that last lap. But I think a 0.6 of a second is going to be enough again this time by for Jordan to take this race win. So the battle for P3 now. This is Langworth versus Fletcher. What can Fletcher do? He did a 1:23.7 that last time by. That is fantastic, especially versus Langworth's 1:24.1. And there's a good couple of tenths of a second, 4/10 of a second going Daniel Fletcher's way. And can he recover things now for P3? It's not the race win that he wanted, the race win that he looked comfortable, or at least relatively comfortable, to get at the end of this event. But the thing is, sometimes things don't go the way you want them to, and you have to be fighting for positions further down the field. But in towards Siberia now for the final time. 3 drivers now involved in this pack. Thomas Jordan has really dropped back here. So this could be an exciting stuff when it comes towards the end of this lap. But the thing is, are any of the drivers close enough to make themselves a pass in the dying couple of stages here? Out towards Lukey Heights now for the final time. Fletcher still not close enough, not even close enough to make a dive down in towards turn number 10, but he does drag the car right up to the back of the number 6. Final couple of corners now, maybe a run out of the final corner required here for Fletcher to get himself on the final step of the podium. He's close enough, looks for the inside line, getting through the final corner, will tuck himself in the slipstream, will try to to get run off the corner. Side by side now. Photo finish potential now for P number 3. Fletcher, he will just get short there. Danrak will take P number 3. Daniel Fletcher, P number 4. 0.02 of a second between them.
I believe actually that was 0.02 of a second, but nonetheless, that was an amazing attempt by Daniel Fletcher coming out of that final corner, and congratulations to Martin Granberg, because that laying back actually did help him out in the long run as well, as he walks away with the win here today.
Oh, a close run thing coming for P number 3. In fact, it was, yeah, 0.02 of a second, which isn't that much considering the top speed of these Pro Mazdas, as the rest of the runners will head their way across the line. And in the battle between Medema and Baresta, Medema did come out on top of that particular battle. Wow, we just need to calm ourselves down after that race finish. But before we do that, here are your official race results. P number 1, Martin Granberg. He was very, very quiet all race in terms of the racing action, just sitting at the back of that front pack in the early stages. But once the drivers started dropping off ahead of him after various mistakes, he is the last man standing, takes the race win by 1.2 seconds over Thomas Jordan. And then we have that fantastic battle between Scott Langrach and Daniel Fletcher in the dying moments. Langrach going to come up on top of that one, gets the final step of the podium as Fletcher gets himself P number 4, but oh, what could have been for him. And you've got Wayne Funston, P number 5, gains 5 positions on his qualifying time, on his qualifying position, P10 to P number 5. Another good mover as well, Anne Medema, P number 14 to P number 6. We've got the likes of Loresta, Noyon, Henry Robert, and Gabriel Martin of Alvarado rounding out your top 10, and the rest of these drivers, they are all non-finishers. This is Joseph Newman, Martin Arnoldas, Ishmael Hernandez, Nicholas Landau, Christian Kambancha, and Cedric Krolzik will be your non-finishers for this event. So while we wait for drivers to get themselves here into the commentary booth, we'll be going for not a short commercial break, because Martin Arnoldas is actually here, so maybe let's get him into the commentary booth perhaps, as he did finish P number 12 and was a non-finisher, but we might as well get the interview process started. There we go. Martin Arnoldas joins us here in the commentary booth at the end of what was, shall we say, a very troubled race. You went out on lap 1.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can't talk because the baby is asleep.
Maybe you can talk a bit quiet.
So I need to move.
Well, there we go. While Martin is sorting that one out, that was... it was a race. It was what I would call a sandwich race there, Gary. Exciting at the start, exciting at the end, and the middle was just setting up for that end.
Yeah, it was a simply amazing race, and the use of the slipstream at this track was, again, just simply amazing. It sounded like a broken record, but my goodness, the way the drivers utilized it was interesting, because with that last lap pass, or at least the attempt from Daniel Fletcher on Scott Larnick was again, just simply amazing. I cannot stop myself from saying that. That's just how this was. That's just how this race was. And unfortunate that some of the drivers did make mistakes, but it definitely would have been amazing to see all 4 of those drivers try and fight it out on the final lap coming out of that last corner.
Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate, but I think the overall theme of this race was just single car unforced errors. It happened twice at the front of the field, and as a result, we got a winner that perhaps we wouldn't have expected, especially in the middle of that event when Martin Granberg was falling off the back of that front pack. I wouldn't have expected him to take the race win, but the thing is, all the circumstances just fell his way, with the drivers at the front of the field getting themselves into problems, and that is all you need sometimes. You just need to be the last man standing sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes when you think, even I thought that Martin Granberg wouldn't be able to really make it. He was just sitting there laying back, however. So I was thinking he was just keeping himself in line just for the slipstream, just in case anything happened. Well, three things happened actually, and of course, well, that just put him all the way up into first place after starting in 5th. A really interesting strategy by him as well, because that was, from as far as we could tell, he didn't really make any errors. He minimized his errors, so obviously he's had a lot of practice. Even drivers that do have a lot of practice still tend to mess up once in a while, and of course we've seen that with I believe it was Thomas Jordan that got loose in the middle of entering turn 1 when he was in the lead. So although he did manage to come out with a second place finish where he started as well. So overall, not a terrible race.
Not a terrible race indeed. As you know, also if you want more of an idea of how hard Daniel Fletcher was trying on that final lap, he set the fastest lap of anyone that last lap. So that is how much it meant to the number 13 of Daniel Fletcher. Unfortunately, it was only just not enough 0.02 of a second to separate him in 3rd place, but that is absolutely fantastic stuff, as we will decide to wrap things up here. This is all we have time for. Make sure you join us for the next Pro Mazda broadcasted race. That'll be April 15th at 1 in the morning, well, 1:45 in the morning GMT. That is the USA time slot. So let's just see some of the American drivers wheel these Pro Mazdas around the racing circuit. That is 9:45 Eastern for you guys just over the pond. But this is just setting up for a huge bumper weekend of racing action here on Racesport TV and iRacing Live. We've got the VRS GT World Championship coming up in a couple of hours, 3 hours at Sebring, and then we've also got the start of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. That is the Neo Endurance Series, 24 Hours of Le Mans, powered by Racesport TV. That's one you definitely do not want to miss. We'll be bringing all 24 hours of coverage to you here on Racesport TV, so make sure you tune in for that one. It's going to be absolutely brilliant as a season finale for Neo Endurance Series. But I've been Connery Maddock, that's been Gary Weaver, and we'll join you for, well, at least I'll join you in a couple of hours for the VRS GT World Championship. See you guys.